Me, a bro.
Yep.
He, a dude.
That's good stuff. All right. Let's try it. Okay. Welcome to the We Will Journey podcast. We're talking about faith and life as it happens, and not the glossy exterior we wish it was.
Ah,
What, man? What did I do wrong?
I think you said it's because all the things I was thinking about before. But we can edit that. You got that part good.
Oh.
You got it good. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, just.
Now it's your turn.
Good.
Yeah.
Wait. We're gonna get under the surface. I should have said all those things before. We should have waited. Down and dirty until after we read this part.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty. Okay. Maybe we should. It doesn't have to be word for word, right?
No. I mean, I gave an interpretation.
Okay. All right. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty of life as it pertains to our beliefs, our relationships, politics, and absolutely everything else.
Oh, there we go. That was good. All right.
Email. That's right, I said email. Seems like everybody's got one these days, even us. So if you want to get in contact with us or chat about the weather, you can shoot us an email at wewilljourney.connect@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you or reading from you.
Three, 2, 1.
All right.
We started simultaneously, am I right?
We're going, Seth. Good day to you. There we go. Good day. I think that's the most appropriate way to start. Just with a good day. Good day to you.
Not really. It's almost 8 p.m. I would not ever say that. My
lad,
Would you ever tell someone good day at 8 p.m.?
I might. I wouldn't put it beyond, like the realm of possibility as to something I might do. I think
you'd probably do it if you were angry and about to storm out. Good day, sir. And slam the door.
I would do that. The fact that you mention it and you planted that seed in my mind really makes me want to just do that for fun.
Isn't that funny? I've always thought it's funny that, at least in and how we use them in the States, like good morning is like always like a joyful greeting to me. Mm-hmm. It just always seems to be like full of sunshine and scrambled eggs.
Right. Good morning always feels good. Okay.
But then if you say good day, it's like, I don't know, that's kind of a bit of a like someone's a bit annoyed, a bit tense.
Oh.
Yeah. Right? Like, how often do you hear good day in like a good way? It's like, good day. It's like, yeah, good day, sir.
I'm thinking of an older woman that I used to see on a regular basis. I think she said good day, and it was always a little bit curt. It wasn't like a friendly good day. It was always on her way out. So it was like a exit, good day, and and it would be, if she was a little miffed about something, which didn't really take much for her, but if she was a little miffed about one thing or the other, that was a good day, and good day to you, and then out the door she would be, but. If everything had gone well, she'd be like, all right, we'll see you later. Have a good day. She would still say good day. Right. But it would be a totally different good day.
That's because she added the have. If you have a good day, that's different.
And she would maybe use our name and acknowledge several people. Yeah, so maybe you're right, Seth. Maybe that is, maybe that's just the way Good Day works in America. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, in other countries, at least in Australia, it's like seems like a happy, warm greeting as well.
Right. Americans have ruined it by making it a negative thing.
I don't know what happened there.
That's a bummer. As usual, we have some little rabbit hole that we go down, and apparently it's around the term good day. But we did want to talk about, or you wanted to talk about more specifically, because I don't want to talk about this, but you wanted to talk about...
It's good to know.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about nonprofits. And so people that may say things that sound prophetic, but in fact they're not prophetic at all. Is that correct? That's what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, nonprofits, Antichrist, anyone who, wolf in sheep's clothing.
Okay.
All those things.
Yeah. All right. Let's dive in, man. I want to talk about this. Let's talk about nonprofits.
I think you kind of misunderstood.
Well, you just affirmed what I said. You said yes. That's what you want to.
Yeah, I was just doing that to be facetious.
Oh,
I guess as you'd say.
Oh,
I meant not. So basically, I'll just like a nonprofit organization.
Oh,
like social work.
Oh, okay,
stuff.
Okay.
Nonprofit or not,
I'm also familiar with that concept as well.
So yeah, even whichever one you're more familiar with too, we could go down that path.
Well, I'm actually I'm a director of a nonprofit. So
which kind? Which kind?
Of a 501c3. Yeah.
Okay, so not someone who's falsely giving messages on behalf of God.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't direct a nonprofit in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the director of a 501c3, which is the legal, the legal status of an organization. But
okay, well,
so I do have some familiarity with what you're talking about.
Okay, I guess I don't necessarily desire to get into the nitty gritty and the.
Well, I mean that's what our show's about.
Tax terms.
Actually, when people hear the intro to our show, we're going to actually say we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. So you don't want to get down to the nitty gritty about nonprofits.
We might want to change it to "Good day, welcome to Seth and Tyler's." Okay.
All right. Well, continue, Seth. No. And whether we get down to the nitty gritty or not, we'll let that just kind of take shape naturally. But go ahead.
I meant like the nitty gritty of like the tax forms or whatever that have to do with a nonprofit organization.
We don't pay taxes.
What I was gonna.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep going.
So I had this experience recently, and it got me to thinking, and I was interested to know your thoughts about it and about your experiences. And I've worked and helped run a youth center here in Austria for the last 7-ish years.
Yes.
And so anytime you're in that kind of line of work, I guess you could say, or whatever, then you kind of get to know or get to familiar with some of the other organizations, or people hear about you hear about other things that are doing similar work.
Mm-hmm.
And in Innsbruck, as far as I know, I mean, we've kind of only been the only like Christian organization of that kind, or Christian group that had been doing like youth ministry in that way.
Right.
Although I've heard some recently about a Catholic youth group, and I'm not sure what all they are involved in. But point being, that means like most of the other groups that do this kind of stuff then are, a secular social work kind of thing. And so recently, we've been under lockdown here because of this coronavirus thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of our ministry looks different. A lot of our meetings look different. It's a lot of online stuff, online game nights where we're playing games together and connecting with the youth in that way. We were, before the lockdown got harder or more severe or whatever, we were still meeting outside and doing things at parks. But I got contacted by this lady who had found out about our organization online or whatever. And she was interested in kind of hearing a little bit about what we're into and what we do. And but she was more interested in seeing if we, specifically I, could kind of promote what she was involved in and what she was heading up. And as I said, being a youth center, you have people come by and ask all the time, like, hey, can we, hang up our flyer, our poster? We're doing this concert. We're doing this benefit. We have this, I don't know, youth.
You're really
dance event
you're drawing it
coming
out
up.
right now. Like you're building the suspense for what it is that she wants to promote. And is it
That's what I'm
okay?
good at.
Hang on one second. I just want to take a quick guess here. Is it the witch? That the birds follow that she's always along your bike path. Is it this lady?
It is,
That would be incredible.
I don't know.
That would have been just so amazing if she would have just kind of contacted you. Be like, hey, I'm the lady from the bike path that the birds, that the crows like to follow. And that would be amazing. Huh. Is it her?
I can't honestly answer that question because I haven't met her. I've only talked to her on the phone.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because of Corona. And so that's what I was getting to.
Right.
It's like, things are different right now, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
usually we'd have people come into the youth center and ask if they could put flyers down or whatever, and then we'll kind of talk to them and look at the stuff and whatnot and be able to tell. But this lady, because we don't have active stuff we're doing where we're meeting, and we don't even have a building at this point.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of harder to have a stack of flyers. I mean, I guess I
Sure.
could like tape them all over my bike and bike around town or something.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yep. If you do get a stack of flyers and you do want to deliver them around town, I think you definitely should hand one to that lady along the bike path and just find out. Find out if it happens to be her. What a coincidence that would be if you give her the flyer and she's like, I'm the one that contacted you. It was me the whole time. And what a great way to start a new friendship.
This sounds like a good movie plot.
Yeah.
What you got going there, man?
Yeah, I really like it.
I'm glad. I'm glad your mind is taking you down new and exciting paths.
I really want her to be on the podcast at some point in time. I just think that would be very interesting.
Which one?
The lady that the birds follow. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Have you seen her lately?
I have not seen her, and I've thought about that. Usually when I bike, because I'm on that path all the time.
Yeah.
But I have not seen her, and I don't know if I would want her on the podcast. I guess it depends on what she actually is all about, and
I mean, it
be a lot of
it doesn't
different
hurt to like do the interview, and then if it's just awful, we don't actually have to, air it. But we could talk about it a ton, and then everybody does that paid content stuff, so we could talk about it all the time. And then people would get so curious, then we'd say, hey, by the way, we've started a paid content, side to our podcast. And if you want to hear the actual interview, you can pay us, to listen to it.
you've definitely gone all in on this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now I feel like I'm under pressure to find her and talk with her. But
okay, but let's focus on your lady here. What is the flyer about? I mean, it's killing me. I want to know. I really want to know. What
do you really? Because you keep going down.
I know, but tell me what
kinds of other paths.
Tell me what she wants to do. What does she want to do?
So I'm the kind of person who is.
You're not going to tell us, are you? You're not going to tell us. You're just avoiding the question.
No, I'm actually trying to say something.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm listening. It feels like it's gonna. It feels like it's gonna take a long time to get to it. But go ahead. You're the kind of person that likes to draw things out. Okay, continue.
I was actually saying you're the kind of person that likes to draw things out.
Oh, that's me. That's my job. Okay.
So, yes, you have thrown me for a loop.
So do you even remember what it is that she wants to promote?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I was trying to talk about a topic in general, not just about this specific thing. So.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So, I don't know. I kind of feel like you have other things you want to talk about. Maybe it'd be better just to let you talk. I
really want to talk about this. Just tell us what it is that she wants to promote, and then continue talking about, the aspect of it that you want to talk about. So what does she want to promote, just out of curiosity?
Well, she's promoting her youth, not ministry, obviously, because it's not a Christian organization, but her youth organization, and what they do is they get college students to pair up with high school students and be mentors.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a terrible idea.
Wow.
That's awful.
That's what I said. I said,
what a terrible.
She's like, we only have male students and we're looking for high school girls between the age of 15 and 17.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No, she didn't say that.
Yeah.
But no, so she seems super nice and really passionate about what she was into, and
right.
That they do this. They've been doing this for a number of years, and they have these people. I think the students or whatever that they have as their mentors go through training to be able to have mentees. And because I'm the kind of person who is overly friendly a lot of times, and I want people to like me, and so I'm always listening and hearing people out, and I don't want to just shut people down,
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh well, that kind of sounds interesting. Maybe you could, give us some flyers or whatever. And she's like, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'll bring by a whole bunch of flyers and cards and whatnot. And she was like, hey, if you could, promote this on your online meetings and to all the youth, And I was like, yeah, I'll definitely think about it and whatnot, right? So that's kind of how we had our conversation, and then she brought by all the flyers and stuff, and there wasn't that much information. It was kind of basically what she had told me about it. And so the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to promote something that I don't know the whole picture of.
Right.
And why I was also bringing up the part of it being Corona right now, and the fact that we can't really meet and really get to know the organization and their people, that's kind of a big deal to me, not to know the person, not to actually see them. A phone conversation is one thing, right?
Yeah.
But it just got to me thinking in general about this kind of almost a tension at times, I feel like, and I've experienced it through friends of mine who have been a part of secular. What's the word I'm looking for in English? What we're talking about, non-profit or
organizations, secular organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, but specifically working with youth and kids, and to a point where you're guiding them and you're giving them life advice and you're helping them through difficult situations.
Yeah.
And specifically like looking for young people that are going through hard times because they often need someone.
Yeah.
And my experience through some of the people I know is like they're kind of, as a believer with the convictions and morals, you know, that they have, they're kind of put in a awkward situation where they're supposed to like lead a young person through super difficult situations,
right,
life altering situations, and they're not allowed to share their thoughts on it because they're not allowed to mention Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're fighting like I had one friend specifically, like he was like, you know, they have a team of whatever, like 6 people that are doing this, I keep saying ministry, that are doing this work, the social work, and they're all a different point of view. And, you know, there was a specific thing where a girl wanted to have an abortion and she was, you know, a young teenage girl.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the only one who was encouraging her to not have an abortion.
Right.
And everyone else is like, no, obviously, like, you know, and they're giving her advice and they're literally like, that blows my mind, like to have that kind of influence and power literally over a human life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those things are burned in my head, and so I start thinking about those kind of things when someone like this comes to me. And at first I'm like, oh, this lady sounds super nice, passionate, sounds like they're doing a cool thing. But then right away my head starts going to, wait, like if I'm referring something or someone to a person that I care about, a young person who is growing up and going through life's pains and struggles, I don't want to just put them, you know, in the hands of someone who's might have a completely different point of view, completely different set of morals and standards than I do. And so we talked again on the phone. You know, she called me back to see if I'd been able to promote her stuff, if I'd found people who I could pair, or that she could contact to pair with one of her mentors. And that's one of the things I said. I was like, you know, it's really hard for me because, I mean, I know you guys aren't a Christian organization, which is fine, but for me, there's certain things, there's certain values that we have and certain things that we do and the way we treat people that are like kind of the core to what we're about. And I can't, you know, it's like like it just doesn't feel right, and it's against my conscience to kind of just like put someone I care about, someone I've maybe even personally walked through things with, and just say, hey, there's this other person who wants to meet with you and mentor you. Good luck, kind of. and
right.
And so that's where I've noticed like this tension, and I wonder in general, because there's a lot of really good organizations out there. There's a lot of really good nonprofit, a lot of really good places and people doing good works and helping people and the environment and starving children and all these kind of things. And I guess I wonder, like, as Christians, what's our role in all that, you know? And there is a lot of good Christian organizations, and honestly, most organizations that are around the world doing that kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure like most of them have Christian roots. You know what I mean?
Right.
If they're not anymore. And so should we even support those kind of places, or should we, because we're Christians, support those kind of things? Like if we know, oh, this group is doing amazing things in Africa and the Philippines or whatever, or should we say, you know, actually this is our responsibility as believers to be doing those kind of things. I want to see if there's a Christian organization, or if not, I'm going to get involved or whatever. You know, it's just,
right.
It's an interesting thing that I guess I never spent so much time like really wrestling through.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, so, I mean, I think I know the direction that you want to go with it, but there's a couple ways that I think you could talk about it. That are both really interesting. I think the way that you're wanting to go with it is, should we as Christians support other organizations that are not Christian in nature, but they do good work? So should we kind of pass along people in like a referral sense to that organization, even though it's not rooted in the Christian faith? So I think that's the path you want to go down. But the other path that I find maybe even more interesting is, as Christians, should we participate in an organization that is not rooted in the Christian faith, where we may run into some of the challenges like you were talking about your friends.
And I don't necessarily have a path that I was wanting to go down. I just had like a lot of, like, both of those things you mentioned were both directions that I went through, and things that I've been thinking about because of that. You know, there's not a certain way or a certain like thing where I was like, oh, this is the main thing. I'm just kind of interested to see where, you know, it will take us, and, you know, your thoughts specifically. Yeah. In whatever direction.
Right. So before we get too far, you know, down this path, Seth, when you were talking about how you initially plugged this organization as college men interacting with teenage girls, it made me think of that episode of The Office where Robert California gets funding from, I can't remember the dude's name that bought Dunder Mifflin. But anyways, Robert California.
Sabre?
What's his name?
Well, there's the Sabre company that buys them.
No, the guy before Sabre.
Or after that.
Sure. There's Janet, right? Janet was one of the execs. This was the guy who was like the CEO of Dunder.
I can't remember his name, but I know you're talking
I see him. He's got glasses. Anyways, so he ends up funding Robert California to study gymnasts, like in Russia or something. And anyway, it's a total perv thing, and everybody can see it except the guy that helps fund the thing for Robert California. But anyway, so that was the thing that you actually triggered in my brain as you were going down that weird path with this whole thing. But yeah, so I think it's interesting. So the nonprofit that I'm a director of is not a faith-based nonprofit. Okay, so I am a Christian operating in a non-Christian environment, so to speak, right? Although most of the people that work there or are on the board, or, you know, we all pretty much profess a Christian faith. You know, we may be Protestant or Catholic, but most of us, you know, we would fit into that, you know, that overall umbrella of faith within the organization. And so that's one part of it you could talk about. And then the other part of it, like you said, as an adult leader doing youth ministry, I think that's where you'd really want to kind of draw that distinction. You're working with youth. Should you kind of pass them along to an organization whose mentors you may not really know, you know, where those people are at? You don't necessarily know what is being taught, you know, in that relationship. So, I think what I would do is I'd dig a little deeper, you know, and see, like, what kind of values are being taught? What are your goals and objectives? What kind of training are these young people going through? You know, and find out exactly what the end goal is, So I think there's a possibility that it could be an organization you want to work with. Just because it's a secular organization doesn't mean they're still not teaching good ethics, or they may have a super solid program, But as somebody that's going to be kind of partnering with them, I would want to know more before I did that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But on the other side of it, as a Christian, working in a non-Christian environment, I think that is one of the things that Christians should flock towards. Okay. What a wonderful challenge to have, right? How do I talk about Jesus without directly talking about Jesus? How can I be a good missionary, and instill kingdom values and ethics into the world without, making it, the reality is if we proselytize in these environments, we'll get fired or asked to leave, So I think it actually makes us better equipped in the long run at working in these environments. And these are the environments that as Christians we should want to work in, and it's easy to work in the Christian environment where everybody talks the same and everybody thinks alike, and chances are a lot of the kids, running it. So if you're doing a youth ministry, a lot of the kids, have been brought up in the church, so everybody's kind of speaking the same language. You don't have to work too hard at that. But when you're working in a secular environment, you don't have all those easy fallbacks, and so it makes you have to work harder. And I think that is phenomenal. That's the place that I've been myself quite a bit as an adult and trying to be kingdom minded. But yeah, there's all these lines, and sometimes you have to feel out what are the lines, here, how far can I go? Where do I need to get cautious and where do I need to stop, so then when you find yourself in those places of either having to use a lot of caution or needing to stop, then it's well, how can I still be effective, in that space and still basically talk about the same values, or encourage the person with those same values, but just not make it, where it's I'm going in the wrong place, where I'm going to cause an issue. So, are you digging our theme music? Well, we dig it too. You can check out more Jane Gilman music at our website, janegilman.com, or you can download some of her music to your playlist on iTunes. That's GILLMAN. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good thoughts there. I think that's what I've really enjoyed about a lot of things I've been able to be a part of, is that, for example, the youth center ministry, which you got to, I think, stop by. I think we stopped in there one day when you were here, at least.
Are you talking about yours?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was there. I was there the day that I got in. Remember, you were working,
right, yeah.
And
so
yeah.
So what I've loved about that is, it's I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this, that it's the beautiful mix of both worlds, where because it's kind of supported and funded by the churches in Innsbruck, a group
right.
of, so bunch of small churches. The core team is Christian, but the whole point of it is to be in the world and reaching the people in the city. And so that's why we were right in the middle of the city, across from the train station. That's why basically all the ministry we're doing, was for everyone, hence just like being a youth center and not being a church. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I loved about it so much. And we even had people, especially for tutoring, we have a lot of people who aren't Christians who have helped us in our tutoring stuff that we do. But it's always been super important to us that like the leader or whoever's in charge of whatever whatever outreach we're doing, whatever social project, whatever ministry we're a part of, that they're Christian. And that's where kind of ultimately where our heart is, is to show people God's love. And so that's what I've loved about that, is because like we're in the city, we're working at times exclusively with non-Christians. We even had a woman call us once a number of years ago, and she was kind of perturbed because we didn't have any spots available in our learning center. And she was like, how can you guys make room for all these brown children and have no room for people from the church?
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of, and we were like, oh, sorry, ma'am, of course, we'll kick them out right away.
Yeah, right.
No, but it's just like, that's what's been so beautiful about it is, I feel like when you have someone like that who's upset, then you kind of feel like you're more close to the heart of God. It feels like something like a Pharisee would say, right?
Yeah, it does. I actually had, so we did an open gym last year for kids, which is just an open gym, right? And there was no Christian teaching element to it. And like yours, it was just where basically Christians were running the open gym, and it was an opportunity to engage and build relationships with the youth in our community. And actually a grandma that had a grandson that was coming to the program told me, like, well, since you guys actually aren't doing anything there spiritual, we're not going to bring him anymore. And so I thought, for one, what a stupid thing to say on her part. But and then the other part is like, this is one of the basic problems with a lot of Christians today, and they don't value building relationships. They only value Bible study, sermons, and as long as you're doing those things, that's a Christian activity. But building relationships is not a Christian activity. They've like somehow divided those two things, where they don't overlap. And it seems like to me, and maybe I'm reading the Bible all wrong, but the number one thing that Jesus did was build relationships. And it was because of the relationships that Jesus had that afforded him to have the ministry that he had. And I think if it wasn't for the relationships that Jesus had, the church would not be what it is today. It probably would have never happened. And so, I think that's a cultural thing that is too bad, because we've devalued relationship building. And I think primarily because it's so freaking difficult, like building relationships takes time. And that's the one thing that most of us don't want to give, is our time. We'll give our money. A lot of us will give our money, but don't ask us to give up our time, because that can interfere with football games, going out to restaurants, whatever, golfing, whatever it is that you like to do. I'd rather give you my money than give you my time. And that's the culture that we live in, and that's not a secular culture. That is a Christian culture, unfortunately, too, because we've kind of integrated with the secular culture. So, anyways, so I'm with you, man. Like, I've experienced some of that in the things that we've done as well.
Hey guys, it's Seth. Some of you might be wondering, I wish there was a way to follow these guys and what they're up to. Well, I don't know if you heard about a little thing called the internet. That's right. If you check us out at twitter.com/WeWillJourney1, you'll be able to keep updated on what we're up to and maybe some future interviews or projects we're working on. Catch you later. Even that, sorry, I know we refer a lot to when you were here, but even like, when you came and one of the things you got to do is kind of help us out doing a youth retreat, and you cooked for us, right? And your cooking partner was this good friend of mine who's a Muslim.
Yes.
And that was so cool, right? It was just cool to see like us hanging out together in the kitchen. And everyone who was there, I mean, obviously the other leaders were believers. And then we had just, kind of a mix of youth. But it was cool just to see him in that environment and just to feel loved and to feel welcomed. And he obviously, he knows obviously that I'm a Christian and he knew what this thing was. But it wasn't like, we had to spray him with holy water before he walked in or something, It's just cool to kind of do things together, rub shoulders with people from all backgrounds and nationalities, and be able to benefit other people. I think the difficulty and where my hang up is like certain things, and I guess maybe the one thing that really impacted me is that thing with abortion that happened. The story I referenced, and just like me I can't imagine like not being in a situation like that, because we've talked to a few people over the years in those kind of situations, and that to me is just such a huge thing and such a obviously life-changing event that if I can't love that person and respond to that person, that'd be it's just so difficult. And that's why I think, like, ideally we'd have Christians who are in the world, and like things like crisis pregnancy centers. Amazing. I think those are amazing ministries, right?
Yeah.
They're reaching out to everyone who's in need, who needs support. There's so many awesome like homeless ministries. There's a ministry here in Innsbruck. It's really small, but a group of like super devoted women, I think all of them who do ministry to prostitution workers, or street workers, I guess you'd say. And that stuff is incredible, right? That's this kind of stuff that, like you were talking about before, like that is not easy stuff.
Right.
And so I think if we can be a part of it, but also be able to have the freedom at the same time, like be in the world, but not of the world, that's amazing. And a lot of these ministries too, like, before I'm doing what I'm doing now, like, I worked, I don't know, 6 or 8 years, something like that, and just random jobs, secular jobs. And sometimes where I got in trouble for doing, like you were saying, like telling someone, right, God bless you, or
Gesundheit,
reading my Bible.
Yeah, hang on one second. I do want to back up just a little bit. I want to back up just a touch here and talk about that situation with the girl that was being encouraged to have the abortion. And I guess my challenge would be, do I need to say the name Jesus to offer godly advice in that situation? Is it required that I open up? Is it required that I take the person and point out a scripture? I guess to give them advice in that situation. And I think that is the thing that we as Christians, that's like our fallback, is that we'll just point out a verse and say, see, and typically it's something like, you'll do that and you'll go to hell, or whatever it is. Like, that's the vibe, that's the vibe we give off. But I think the problem is that many Christians, and I'm not putting you in this camp, Seth, many Christians just don't really know enough about Scripture to know how practical it is, and to really understand that Scripture is there to provide practical answers for living, okay? Practical answers for human relations, and practical answers for our relationship to God. Mm-hmm. And so in that situation, I think a Christian should have a great opportunity, and they wouldn't have to use the name Jesus. They wouldn't have to open up their Bible, but they could provide just a lot of practical biblical information to that person about why they may want to think about another option. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other part of it too is, Seth, and this is a little, it's harder because we can't point to any one scripture, right? So like I was just talking about, we can't really point to a scripture that definitively says that if she follows through with an abortion, that fetus or baby will end up in heaven with Jesus, but I believe that it will. So that's the other part of it, that in life and in death, that God has us, covered. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that's universalism. I believe that is, just God loving, a human life that has not had a chance to choose him yet or not. So.
That's good. Yeah, I think so. I was kind of heading in a different direction with it, as far as I was thinking of it more as, if I'm a part of a team and our goal is to, like in this situation and in most situations, especially here in Austria, if you're a part of a team and you're a secular organization mentoring youth, mm-hmm. and this happened exactly in that situation, is everyone else in that team was pointing this young lady in one direction, and the one person who, whether or not, he wasn't able to talk about God, he just told her, what, about science, about this is, his beliefs and his thoughts on it. But if you're 1 against 5 or 1 against 6 or whatever, that sucks. And that's more what I'm talking about. Not that, I can't use the name of Jesus, but I can't be a part of a team where I'm fighting against my own team. The team's not going to be successful. And I guess I've just seen how valuable teamwork, team ministry, in general is. And that's why for me, and it can be different, for other people. And obviously I think ultimately if God calls you to be in a certain spot, or, with Esther, you're in this place for such a time as this, then that's what you're called to do, right? My personal goal would be, and I think as believers, there is people who have a passion for those kind of things. Mm-hmm. There's so many people that have a passion for young people. Maybe there's not a ton of them, but if you get a few people together, right, you can make a big impact. But me on my own, if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to love, guide, mentor young people, and at the same time, kind of there's an internal constant disagreement and uneasiness of how we're going to do things. That's
I don't think there has to be, though.
I don't think there has to be, but in my context, that's how it is. I mean, like everyone I know, that's just basically the common things that I hold as like my values. Like that's just not those aren't the common values of an average young person here. And
yeah,
so that's kind of my that's kind of, I guess, where my thoughts were going.
So there's a group of people. They do missional community work. It's called SOMA, SOMA. And Jeff Vander, somebody or another, I can't remember his last name. He's kind of one of the main dudes. But he actually talks about being a wiser missionary. Okay. And so, because I think these are the spaces that we're called into. And I'm not saying that we're not also called into the spaces where we have a team around us, but I think we're definitely called into the places where we don't have a team around us, and where there's this space where it's just us and God, and then kind of the rest of the world, so to speak, and I think that is the space that we really see God work in, because, like you just kind of elaborated on, the odds are really stacked against us, and so I feel like where God moves in the biggest ways are the spaces where the odds are against us, and I think that's a biblical concept too, because that is what you see throughout Scripture in the Old and New Testament. Is, you look at the prophets. I've been reading Ezekiel this week, for instance, and like basically the whole nation, at least his immediate context, has rebelled from God in some way, shape, or form, and God is calling him to do some really bizarre stuff, but to make a point, about their spiritual condition. And, he didn't have anybody, from what I read, kind of like in his corner at that moment. It was just him and God was telling him to do like some really bizarre, crazy things. And, I think that is a space that God calls us to on a really regular basis. Like a disciple of Christ is called to the difficult spaces where we may not feel supported, where we may not feel loved and encouraged and valued. One of my friends actually posted something this week, talking about, life is difficult. I can't remember which verse she used off the top of my head right now. But the verse that was kind of like crossed out was the one where, God will never give us more than we can handle. But this verse was actually talking about the fact that, when we are overwhelmed, when we are burdened, just remember that God is still there, despite, our physical, emotional, and maybe even our spiritual condition, in the moment. But yeah, I think, Seth, what you were talking about, is one of the hurdles that we in evangelical Christian culture have not done a very good job, preparing ourselves emotionally for, and we look to avoid it, I think, a lot. And and again, I'm not saying you, even though you kind of said I'd rather be on the team that's Christians. That way my values are kind of mirrored across my group. But I see you do stuff outside of that too. So I know that may be your comfort zone, but I don't think you're unwilling to go down that other path either. I've actually, personally, my personal experience with you is you doing more of that than maybe the other. But even though we have done some of the other together, like that retreat that I helped you at, but I've never seen you shy away from guys with beer bottles that are looking to hit you over the head or anything. But yeah, I just think that we've kind of built up ministry as something that should be comfortable, and ministry is not a comfortable thing to engage with. And when we're engaging with the world, many times it's going to be difficult. Many times we're not going to get any kind of positive reinforcement from really anybody. But that's the space that I think we're called into, and I think that's a space that God really can do a lot of amazing things in as well.
Yeah, I think that's some good stuff. I think we're kind of passing each other a bit, like two boats passing in the ocean, where my point is more like, I don't want to like say if there's something I'm passionate about, like mentoring young people, I don't want to like specifically pick an organization that is against my values. So whether I'm doing individually, like a lot of stuff I do here, for example, I'm individually, I'm in the world, I'm building relationships with people, right? But I personally, and I see, especially in the New Testament, like how much that community and how much the team and how much that doing things in partners is valuable. And I see Jesus promote that all the time, with like,
sure.
Obviously the 12 disciples, but then whenever he sent people, sent them in pairs,
yep,
sent them in groups. Paul had somebody he was with, all the time, and people he was mentoring, and if they split off, then they took, him and Barnabas, like each taking a different person with them. And you see the New Testament church, that's not like a bunch of people just off on their own. So I think my point is more like, obviously we need each other, and wherever we're working, like I tell that people all the time, like, you are a missionary if you're a servant of Christ, and whether you're working at Walmart or working at Starbucks or working at Amazon or working, at a youth center or whatever, like God has you there as a missionary, and I'm all about that. I worked at all these jobs where it could be very lonely as far as like in my faith, because I felt like everyone here is like the exact opposite of me morally, but we were still able to build relationships, right? We were still able to get along, and there were so many times I could like pray for people or just talk to people about things because we worked together and we got to know each other, and that's what I'm all about. But to me, it's different to like be in a specific thing where your goal is to like help young people, or your goal is to do that. And for me, that's the harder thing, I guess, is like specifically, I want to go work with a team that's doing this thing, and so I'm going to pick an organization where everyone is going to be working against me the whole time. Like that's what's kind of hard, and I think that's why you're doing youth ministry where you're at, right? And I think like you didn't choose to go join a secular ministry working youth. You're working with Christians to reach out to the youth in your community. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's more my thing, is like I know that I need other people that are like-minded, and sometimes it's just my wife, or sometimes it's
Right.
just the support of someone who's across the world and I can call.
And I think that's part of it. Like sometimes that is our support system. You may not actually have it in the environment that you're working in,
Right.
but
Exactly.
you may have that support system elsewhere. The verse that I was trying to think of was 2 Corinthians 1:8-9. It says, "We do not want to be uninformed about the troubles we experienced. We are under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. But this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God, who raises the dead." I'm actually just reading it off that Facebook post, but
Did you fact check that?
yeah, I probably should have pulled it up, but I think that's the verses I remember it too. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, and I would have another friend, and he's like, Jesus never sent anybody off by themselves, just like you mentioned too, that when there was the 72 disciples, they were sent off in pairs of two, and and anyway, so that's totally true. But I still think we find ourselves in these situations where we need to be salt and light, like we talked about last week. In C.S. Lewis and Mere Christianity, he talks about biblical values that the world embraces. Now, I can't remember. I think he gave him a term. But there's these kind of universal biblical truths that most of the world embraces too. So that could be like another part of it, is that even though you're with a secular organization, the values of that organization still may be primarily biblical. Now you may have some non-biblical deviations as well. And so that may be a challenge, but I think that's a good challenge. I think we need to go into those spaces because we need to know how to minister to those people in that situation, because that is the world that we are called to be salt and light to. And so I think those are the situations that many times we kind of run from, but we really need to totally engage with, because quite frankly, that is where we are currently failing in the world. Like, we don't have answers for that because we think we've separated ourselves from secular culture so far that we don't really know how to engage with it anymore. And that is not who we are supposed to be as kingdom people. We are supposed to be engaged with the world, showing them another ethic. And, so I take that personally as a challenge to myself to get smarter, read more, learn more, process those things that I'm experiencing in the world so I can engage with it in a more effective manner. And in the last 2 or 3 years, man, I feel like I've come a long way in that, because I was, like you, we both grew up in pretty sheltered Christian environments. And, so I really didn't know how to engage, with the world. And I'll also just take it another step further. Like, some of the tools that have helped me a great deal are not necessarily biblical tools, but just normal social science type tools for engaging with people, whether it be conflict resolution or, whatever it may be. There's a lot of just really good, solid, universal tools out there that have helped me become a better missionary.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so before we get off today, I do want to encourage people. We have a Twitter. What do they call it? Is it a page? Is it a feed? I don't know what it is. It's Twitter. It's Twitter.
Feed, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is. But it's at We Will Journey the number 1. We currently have 2 followers. I want to do a shout out to Dave. Because I think Dave is our only actual follower. Because I think the other one is you, isn't it?
I think it is, unless it stopped at this point.
I think that you're the other follower. So, anyways, so Dave, we love you for being our only fan. But check out our Twitter feed. Because I do also, actually, some of the things that I reference, I will share on our Twitter feed. So whether it be like articles, sermons, podcasts, different things, or I may not even reference them, but I may have listened to them and I just share it there. So that way more than Dave can just check it out, you know, but we do love Dave. He's awesome. So yeah.
Also, I mean, not everyone has Twitter too, which is
sure. Yeah. Yeah, but a lot of you do. Too. A lot of you do, I bet. And so check us out. Check us out. Follow us. Make us feel better about ourselves. That would really be appreciated. But any parting words, Seth?
Did you say partying words?
Parting, like PARTING.
I was gonna say like bash, celebration, balloons.
No. We should share that video though. We need to find that. Video. And put that on our Twitter feed, because that is just a big part of who we are as far as our inside humor. We love making jokes about that video. So,
you're saying,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
the
star-crossed
California dudes.
Yeah, we're star-crossed. Yes. Yeah, we were star-crossed. He bodyboarder, me a surfer.
No, the only thing I was gonna say, which I had to kind of close up my thoughts on our conversation is, and I think we're kind of in the same boat in this, is like, it is not any more noble, because I think we've probably even talked about this before, but like, it's not any more noble to be that Lone Ranger person who goes out and says like, I want to put myself in a situation, like, I think we've had this conversation, or I've talked to other guys about this too, like, just because you love people who go to strip bars doesn't mean you need to go to a strip bar with them to show them that you love them, you know what I mean? Like, so there's always that thing where it's like, you know, yes, we need to be out there, we need to engage the world, we need to be in the world. But at the same time, like, it's not any more noble or any more holy any more righteous to be like that Lone Ranger who's just going to go out and defeat everything on our own. And so I guess that's just my ultimate thing.
And
the concept, we need Jesus and we need each other.
Yeah, the concept of Lone Ranger is not a biblical concept anyways. So, that doesn't exist. Like we talked about before. If you find yourself kind of in a more secular environment, you still need to have a group of believers around you in some capacity to be successful, because that's just how we're made. That's who we are as human beings. That's who we are as Christians. We're called to be in community with other believers, and so that concept of Lone Ranger is not a biblical concept anyways. So,
amen.
Yeah. All right, brother. Good talk, man. Great non-profit conversation. So thank you. Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for checking us out today. Make sure you check in every weekend for new episodes. And you can also, if you like, I mean, there's no pressure or anything, but you can also subscribe and rate us, as long as it's a good rating, obviously. And just contact us however you like to do that sort of thing. Until next time, see you guys.
I got a home in that yonder city, oh Lord, and it's not made by hand. I've got a mother, a sister. sister and a brother who have gone to that sweet home. Well, I'm determined to go and see them, a good Lord, over on that distant shore. As I go down to that river of Jordan, just to bathe my weary soul. If I could just touch the hem of his garment, good Lord, I believe it would make me whole. When I'm dead, laying in my coffin, all my friends all gather round. They can say I'm just sleeping, good Lord, the sweet peace I have found